Frank and Linda sat at their kitchen table last month, staring at a spreadsheet. They wanted $1,000 a week in dividends to cover their retirement, so they typed into Google, "How much money do I need?" The first answer they found said $1.5 million. The second said even more. Frank closed the laptop. He told Linda, "We'll never get there." Here's the thing. Frank was using the wrong number, and most people make the exact same mistake. Today, I'm going to show you a $1,000 a week dividends plan that actually works. You'll see the exact portfolio size, the exact funds, and the part most people miss, a legal way to pay zero federal tax on that income. Quick note, I'm not a financial advisor or government employee. Everything here is for educational purposes only. For your specific situation, always check with a qualified professional. Now, let's fix Frank's math. $1,000 a week is $52,000 a year. That's just division. The question is, what yield do you need from your portfolio? If you only use a fund like SCHD, which yields about 3.3% right now, then yes, you need $1.57 million. That's where Frank's Google search stopped. But you don't have to use just one fund. When you blend dividend growth funds with higher yield income funds, you can reach a 7.2% combined yield, and at 7.2%, the portfolio you need drops to $722,000. Not $1.5 million, not even $1 million, $722,000. That number changes everything. And here's what's wild. The median retirement savings in America for someone aged 65 to 74 is only $200,000. So $722,000 is a stretch, but it puts you in roughly the top 7% of all households. You don't have to be rich, you just have to be intentional. But the portfolio size is only half the story. The real advantage shows up when you combine it with one other income source, and the IRS math gets very interesting. 3 roads to $1,000 a week. Let me show you 3 paths to that $1,000 a year. Each one uses real funds you can buy today. Path 1, the safe and slow road. SCHD, the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. It yields about 3.3%. Solid companies, growing dividends, but at that yield, you need roughly $1.57 million to hit $52K a year. That's a big number for most people. Path 2, the high-income shortcut. SPYI, the NEOS S&P 500 High-Income ETF. It yields almost 11%. At that rate, you only need about $439,000. Sounds amazing, right? But there's a catch, and I'll explain it in a few minutes because if you skip that part, it could cost you. Path 3, the blended plan. This is the sweet spot. You mix funds like SCHD, JEPI, JEPQ, and SPYI together. SCHD gives you dividend growth. JEPI yields around 8.4%, JEPQ around 10.5%, and SPYI near 10%. Blend them together and your combined yield lands around 7.2%. At that rate, $52,000 a year needs a portfolio of $722,000. Here's why this matters. Half the portfolio is still in dividend growth funds. That means your income can rise over time. SCHD has grown its dividend by 10% a year for the past decade. That's your built-in raise. Think about that. Most jobs don't give you a 10% raise every year, but a well-built dividend portfolio can. Now, $722,000 generating $52K a year is strong, but what if I told you a 65-year-old couple could collect that income and pay zero, literally zero in federal income tax? Here's exactly how that works. The zero tax retirement paycheck. This is the part that changes how you think about retirement. Take our blended portfolio producing $52,000 a year in qualified dividends. Now add Social Security. The average retired worker gets about $24,852 a year in 2026. That gives you a combined income of $76,852. The average retiree in America lives on about $56,000, so you're already well above average. But here's the real surprise. Let's walk through the tax math for a married couple, both 65 or older, filing jointly. In 2026, their standard deduction is $32,200, but there's more. Each spouse gets an extra $1,650 because they're over 65. That's $3,300. And thanks to a new law passed in 2025, there's an additional senior bonus deduction of $6,000 per spouse. That's $12,000 more. Add it all up, $32,200 plus $3,300 plus $12,000 equals $47,500 in total deductions. Now, not all of that Social Security is taxable. After the provisional income calculation, about $21,000 of it gets counted. Add that to $52,000 in dividends. Your adjusted gross income is about $73,000. Subtract that $47,500 deduction. Your taxable income drops to roughly $25,600. Here's the myth most people believe. All dividends are taxed the same way. Here's the truth. Qualified dividends have their own tax brackets, and in 2026, married couples pay 0% on qualified dividends as long as taxable income stays below $98,900. $25,600 is way below $98,900. Federal tax on those dividends? $0. Read that again. $52,000 in income, $0 in federal tax. That's not a loophole. It's the tax code working exactly as designed for retirees who plan ahead. One important note, this only works with qualified dividends. Funds like SCHD pay qualified dividends, but JEPI and JEPQ mostly pay ordinary income. So where you hold each fund matters. Keep the qualified dividend funds in your taxable account, put JEPI and JEPQ in your IRA. That one move protects the zero tax structure. Before I show you how long it takes to build this portfolio, drop a comment right now. Are you building toward dividend income, or are you already living off it? I read every single one. The building timeline nobody shows you. So now you know the target, $722,000, and you know the tax math works. But here's the question everyone asks. How long does it take to get there? Let's say you invest $2,000 a month at a 7% annual return. After 10 years, you'd have around $346,000. After 15 years, about $634,000. Close, but not there yet. You cross the $722,000 line at about 16 years and 3 months. That's the exact point where your portfolio starts paying you $1,000 a week. Can't do $2,000 a month? At $1,500, it takes about 19 years. Can do more? At $2,500, you're there in just over 14 years. Is 7% realistic? SCHD alone has returned about 12.8% a year over the last decade. Even blended with covered call funds that cap some upside, 7% is a conservative assumption. The real number could be higher. Now here's a number that should stop you in your tracks. The current inflation rate is 3.3%. Social Security's cost of living adjustment for 2026 was only 2.8%. That means Social Security is already falling behind. Dividend growth is what fills that gap. SCHD has grown its payout about 10% a year for a decade. That's your inflation armor. Here's what I want you to notice. The difference between $1,500 a month and $2,500 a month is 5 years. 5 years earlier to retirement. 5 years more of $1,000 per week paychecks. That extra $1,000 a month buys you half a decade of freedom. Now, before you rush out and put everything into the highest yielding fund on the list, there's a warning I need to give you, because one of these ETFs has a hidden tax trap that most channels won't explain. The high yield trap you must understand. Remember Path 2, SPYI, the fund yielding almost 12%? Let's talk about what's really happening under the hood. In 2024 and 2025, about 94% of SPYI's distributions were classified as return of capital. That sounds scary, but it's actually a tax classification, not a red flag, as long as you understand it. Here's how return of capital works. When you receive it, you don't pay tax on it today. Instead, it lowers your cost basis in the fund. Buy shares at $50, receive $5 in ROC, your new cost basis is $45. That's why smart retirees treat SPYI as a hold forever position. You collect the income, you never sell the shares. And here's the estate planning bonus. When you pass those shares to your heirs, they get a stepped up cost basis. All that deferred tax, it disappears, legally. Now compare that to JEPI and JEPQ. Those funds pay mostly ordinary income, taxed at your regular rate every single year. No deferral, no step-up advantage. That's why SPYI belongs in your taxable account and JEPI and JEPQ belong in your IRA.
Let me be transparent. SPY has only been around since August 2022. Its share price has stayed roughly flat while paying 12% a year. So far, so good. But we haven't seen how it handles a prolonged down market. That's an honest unknown. That's exactly why the blended approach matters. You don't bet everything on one fund. You build a structure. Most people do the opposite. They see 12% and go all in. Smart retirees ask a different question. They ask, what happens if this fund cuts its payout by 20%? If your whole plan breaks, your plan was never a plan. It was a bet. Diversification across yield sources is what turns a bet into a strategy.
The one rule that holds it all together. So here's where it all comes together. The $1,000 a week dividends plan isn't about picking one magic fund. It's about structure. Qualified dividend funds like SCHD go in your taxable account. That's where the 0% bracket works. High-income funds like JEPI and JEPQ go in your IRA. SPYI goes in your taxable account too, because its return of capital structure defers the tax. Social Security fills in the gap. The senior deduction stacks the math in your favor. And you hold the high-yield positions forever so the deferred tax never comes due in your lifetime. You don't need $1 million. You need the right yield, the right structure, and enough time to let the math work. That's the plan. $722,000 at a 7.2% blended yield, $52,000 a year in dividends. Combine it with Social Security, and a 65-year-old couple brings home over $76,000 a year and keeps every penny of those dividends tax-free at the federal level. Frank and Linda, once they saw these numbers, they reopened that laptop. They started with $2,000 a month. They picked their funds, they built the structure, and now they have a date on the calendar. The month their portfolio crosses $722,000 and starts paying them $1,000 every single week. If someone you know is planning for retirement and still thinks they need $1 million to live off dividends, share this video with them right now. It could change their entire timeline. Drop a comment and tell me, what's your target monthly investment amount? $1,500? $2,000? $2,500? I want to hear your number. If you're building retirement income and want to stay ahead of changes to taxes, Social Security, and dividend strategies, subscribe to this channel. I cover everything that protects your income. Next week, I'm breaking down the exact funds I'd use for this plan, ticker by ticker, allocation by allocation. You won't want to miss that one.